Hello, I am the Game Catcher and you're watching the GameIndex. Today we are reviewing Half-Life, a nostalgic favorite for many, especially many 90s kids that I have not gotten to play until recently, so here we go. In Half-Life, you play as Gordon Freeman, a theoretical physicist who somehow magically knows how to wield sophisticated firearms after a catastrophic cascading collapse of this dimensional barrier between an alien world and our own. Ah! What are you? What are those? In order to escape certain death, Gordon Freeman has to battle not just the invading alien forces, but the Marine military as well, because they were called in to contain the situation, and killing all of the innocent civilians is totally sensical, right? Right? Yeah. Why did this all happen in the first place, though? Because some dumb shit decided to go ahead with a sensitive experiment with unknown materials after a complete systems failure that caused several computers to explode. I swear, there's so much failure among the managerial staff and scientists who should have called bullshit on this situation. This could have all been avoided if people had followed proper protocols. I don't know, but you shouldn't do the test, especially when it puts my body on the line. Despite that rocky and somewhat predictable start, what could have been a very engaging story kind of fell into the background and practical non-existence as the game focused in on its combat, which was really fun, I have to say. All of the various weapons worked properly, and they were introduced in believable settings, with plenty of time in between each one to get used to working them. Oh, I say they all worked properly, but I never did get the hang of that rocket launcher. Oh dear. Okay. Hey, what? How did... Suddenly crowbar. The enemies too were variable and challenging with intelligent AI, especially among the Marines. I was actually really frightened to go up against them the first time because they actually effectively collaborated against me. I'm surprised I've never seen AI like that in games before, even in modern games. AI enemies usually just tend to huddle around you in mobs until you can wallop them, but these guys forced me into actual defensive positions. Very impressive. I also really adored the designs of all the aliens in the game, from the little face-huggers, which I know must have inspired the ones in the Aliens movies, to the electricity zappers and the big heavy grunts. All of this isn't to say that the plot was, disappeared or anything. You could still catch snatches of dialogue with the enemy Marines if you didn't launch into them immediately, and occasionally that asshole businessman popped in and around the area. But it just wasn't that important until the endgame. I usually had no idea why I was going to or through certain areas, except that was what the game wanted me to do. Maybe I just wasn't paying all that close attention, but I was more concerned with the constant threat of imminent death. Oh, I am so dead. I am the deadest. Look at that. Look at all that dead. Now, given today's standards, the graphics aren't that much, but you have to understand this is one of the first games with 3D graphics to come out. Like Doom, which came out in 1993 compared to Half-Life's 1998, didn't really count because they cheated. That's complicated, and I'm not going to get into that because we're actually focusing on Half-Life here, and there are other videos that explain that much more easily. But Half-Life was actually considered the best first-person shooter since the original Doom, and a revolutionary step for the genre, which is one of the reasons why it's so nostalgic for a lot of people, and one of the reasons why I wanted to play it too. But anyways, yes, the graphics are dated, but it's a classic, and it was an amazingly immersive game for its time, thanks in part to its lack of cutscenes, which would have wrested control and perspective away from the player. If you are a graphics fanatic like I am, however, there is a fan-made remake of the game on early access in Steam called Black Mesa, if you want to check that out. It looks really pretty good. The soundtrack stuck out to me as a bit of an odd point, because most of the game it's completely sans music, just you, the alien groans, and your trusty rifle. But there are some great tracks that pop up in otherwise innocuous moments, and at times it was completely startling, and other times it was amazingly epic. It was just weird, but notable when they showed up. Oh god, what's happening? Music. Why are you so breathy? Why is the music so intense? One thing that I have to complain loud and long on is that I absolutely hated jumping in this game. Fall damage was way too punishing. Oh my gosh, that's it. That's the only really big sore point that I had with this game, aside from ladder controls. Oh my gosh, I hate ladders. But it was important, and it impacted my gameplay significantly, especially when we got into the end game, which I'm gonna start talking about right now. So pop in at around that time. Yes, this is where the open space is. Pop in around this time when we're done talking about the end game, okay? Come on, drop the satchel. Explode. I'm so sorry, soldier. He was too much for the both of us. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So the end game is where the plot really begins to pick back up again. You finally reach the Lambda complex where they've developed all this dimension hopping in the first place. And basically Gordon has to go on a suicide mission into their dimension to kill their leader. The thing is, when you get to the other side, this leader, the Nihilanth, which is basically a giant telepathic baby, begins to talk with Gordon in Dory's whale speech. I didn't manage to get everything he said, but what I did manage to catch finally made the pieces begin to fall into place. See, throughout the various complexes you go through, you encounter caged aliens that have obviously been experimented on by the scientists. And before all hell broke loose, or should I say all zen, the Nihilanth mentions that they have all been enslaved, which seemed a little weird to me considering how superpowered they are compared to humanity. But the caged aliens and the fractured state of their world brought an idea to me. Apparently, Black Mesa and the US government, given their collusion with the deadly cover-up of the facility's disaster, had been secretly exploiting this alternate dimension for resources and technology. And after years of subjugation, the aliens had finally launched a rebellion, which you have been putting down single-handedly as Gordon Freeman. The Nihilanth was their leader, their brain, and putting him down would lose them this one chance at freedom. At least, this was the reasoning explanation I gave myself when I decided to spare the Nihilanth Undertale style and rage quit the game. Yes, I didn't finish Half-Life 1 because I didn't want to put an end to their rebellion, and 2, because that last boss fight was complete and utter bullshit. There was no way to reach the healing pools without dying, and the fall damage was so mega brutal given that a lot of it involved having to jump around to get places and also to reach up high enough where you could get a good shot in at the boss. Overall, I felt it wasn't worth it, and that I'd already gotten the best experience I could get out of the game. I was done. Fuck it. In this universe, Gordon Freeman gives them a pass. We spare you, Nihilanth. Goddamn. I did, however, look at the ending, what happens after you beat the Nihilanth, and I feel completely justified in my reasons and feelings and, explanation for the plot. That's all I'm really gonna say on that, except the businessman was an ass. Overall, Half-Life was a fantastic game, fully deserving of all the accolades put on it, even without the benefit of soft-hearted nostalgia. The level design was epic, as were the combat mechanics, and it was fully immersive, even though I often lost track of the plot. That was ridiculous. I believed in what was happening to this world, that it was realistic, and that's important for any game, honestly. There were a few things I had problems with, fucking fall damage, but I would love to play through the sequel or some of the extra content sometime. My rating on this game is a 9 out of 10. I am the Game Catcher, and this game has been caught and cataloged.